Oh, scraps, the scum of sewing. Shall we just skip it? Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Welcome back. So someone on my Patreon asked if we could do a fabric scraps project. So we're gonna make a bag with scraps.
And we'll use an unknown fabric manipulation technique called fabric slashing. A great way to reuse fabric scraps in a very artistic way, to say the least. Comment below if you remember this bag. It's been a while that we made this one.
Sort of a Japanese model that only has triangles, so we don't need a pattern.
We're gonna just copy the shape. Okay, yeah, already lied. We'll do a quick pattern, but it's gonna be extremely simplified and, well, simple. Take your pattern paper. Hang on.
Wait a minute.
I think I finally understand how this came into existence. Anyway, pattern paper, any paper. Now, if you think you are not able to draw a sewing pattern, please shut up. We are literally drawing a triangle that has one right angle that you don't even really have to draw because you can just take the sides of the paper that I made a tiny tad bigger, but then it's just one diagonal line. Cut it out. Be proud. You are now officially a pattern drafter. Sort of.
If that is not the quickest pattern you've ever made, then I don't know anymore.
It's gonna use this old jeans.
So it doesn't really matter what kind of fabric it is. Sturdy fabric, like could be anything, honestly. Because we're gonna slash, I would do something that frays a little bit nice around the edges as well. Just like a denim or canvas or something in that direction.
Now, I was a little tense, but of course, thought this out very well. And it did fit exactly onto my fabric. But my euphoria did not last that long, because I realized we need 4 pieces of this pattern and not 2. And on the front, it did. No, of course not, for God's sake.
Okay, I still have this sort of... So.
Then I spent an embarrassingly long time contemplating whether to use this fabric or not, as well as contemplating all the other decisions in my life. I guess my recommendations therefore probably at least 2 hours. Guess what? I only made it to 1 hour 59 minutes.
So.
To then, after it's all cut out, realize, and please tell me in the comments I'm not the only one with such an incredibly annoying brain. Nah, hate it. We can also just chop a piece of the pattern.
Wow.
20 minutes later.
When necessary, give it a quick press with your iron. And this is mostly because I had to cut into the seam allowance of the jeans.
Okay, I just hope I'm not gonna end with more scraps than I begin with. We'll have to make another bag, another bag, and another bag, and another bag. Get the point.
Now, after all that work, you would almost forget. We need another 4 triangles. So dumpster dive or find some other fabric. I'm just gonna reuse the lining of this old coat that I carefully rip out. As far as, well, one can rip carefully. Ooh, so fulfilling. Iron wrinkly lining fabric and make it look like new.
We're a little more organized. We have 4 triangles of lining in the same color because honestly you're gonna look a little bit into the bag. Easier to mark now the outside of the fabric before we're gonna switch something up. Of course, with denim, the outside is the side where you see sort of the diagonal lines, and sew them together along the straight sides.
Pin the triangles together, so 1 layer of outer fabric on 1 layer of lining fabric, or whatever the hell you picked for the inner fabric, and just along the straight lines of the triangle. So in total 4 triangles, all in the same way. Then we will sew it together on the sewing machine, just a regular distance from the edge of the fabric. Then why actually am I using my ruler to pre-draw where I'm gonna sew? But that's private. But wow, did I cut that poorly? And our seam allowances will come on the outside. Now, close it with a zigzag on both straight sides. Then I'm gonna try to crop a little bit of the edge to straighten the otherwise actually already perfectly straight seam allowances, just for funsies. And pulling out some of the threads to fray out the edges a little bit more. More so for a decorative touch and make the inside out seams seem very intentional. Pun intentional, clearly. I trim down the longer threads. You'll see it a bit. It's already gonna be wild enough. Fray. Okay, slay.
So now we can fill it up. Check.
I'm gonna draw with chalk where I want to top stitch, and in between the top stitching we will slash it open. So I'm just gonna do straight diagonal lines parallel at like 1.5 centimeter distance, because I felt like this is just making the most sense with my triangular shape. However, you can get as creative as you want. It doesn't have to be really straight lines at all, as long as it's somewhat parallel, I would say. It's gonna be overlapping, so 2 of the triangles do not have to be filled at the bottom. So I'm marking the the edge, but then go a little bit further down, so that there's a little bit of an overlap and it will look like both panels are completely filled. And then sew over that line to close it with a top stitch, basically making 2 compartments.
We want to actually add fabrics inside that fray nicely. I would make your scraps a little bit smaller. It's gonna fray a little bit better.
So I'm gonna reuse old jeans leftovers and cut it into smaller scraps, but I don't want to get anything thick in there.
Just because it's a bit too thick to put in between, and we still have to be able to sew over it all.
And I certainly don't want any metal parts in there, because they will be a little hard to sew through. You could potentially seam rip if you have too much time at home. Said nobody ever. So I'm just cutting around all the seams. And bigger pieces you can save some time by ripping them apart. Usually my favorite part of a DIY.
I kind of want to avoid putting like polyester in there or any synthetic fabric, to be honest. It's gonna be washed and we're gonna have a lot of fraying. I want to avoid leaving like a trail of microplastics around town.
Backpack, 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 choo!
I'm on a never-ending microplastics bender.
And then fill everything with scraps, trying to divide them evenly, which is a little tricky, especially because of the irregular shape, but I want to make sure it's also down in the corner and the scraps lining up with the edges as good as possible. However, the upper corner I want to keep free, as we still have to sew the handle in there, so I'm just gonna pin it back for now.
It can all be a little bit rough in a way.
Then, when you have a decent amount of scraps in there, not too little, not too much, I'll say that one more time, not too much.
Just then.
I might have added a little bit much. Can't go back now.
Because in my quest to create an even layer, I've been adding a little more and a little more and a little more, thinking I'm doing great, finally reusing, reducing, recycling those dang scraps. Well, at this point, probably my sewing machine should complain about me instead of the other way around. Even my horse-powered hands weren't having the easiest time getting through.
My stitch length is a bit above average, I would say, so that it's a little easier to sew over so many layers.
Anyway, sew each line from start to finish. Don't forget the back and forth stitch. And absolutely don't. Look at the mess in the back. Which mess? Now, slaying, slashing, we do it all here. I took my seam ripper to make the first little hole. You can take a small scissors. It doesn't really matter how you do it.
So, take a sharp scissors, but watch out.
As long as you don't go through the back layer of fabric.
I use lining fabric for the inside, and inside maybe I could have better picked fabric that's a little more sturdy, like maybe another layer of denim or something.
Then I cut first only through the denim top layer, more or less exactly in the middle in between 2 stitch lines. And after that's completely open, I slash through the other layers of denim, or well, cut. Admittedly, slashing does make it sound a little more exciting than it actually is. It sounds also a lot quicker than it is. Boy, did I fill those things up though. But we power through. And if you do it with a little bit of mojo, it shouldn't be too hard to not cut into the bottom layer. And you see me making some horizontal cuts into the blue denim as well. This is to make it fray better in the washing machine.
One done. 3 more to go.
Look, I did one part first, so I could try it out a little. Very clever, I know. Thank you. But for some mysterious reason, I kept filling the other pieces up like crazy.
I might have exaggerated it a little bit, to be honest. The sewing machine was having a hard time getting over it. And now that I'm cutting it open, I start to understand why. It's like...
Take a good look. This is what you don't want to do. Hallelujah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 layers.
Don't do this, guys. Your sewing machine will hate you. When I had to switch to my cheap sewing threads that time of the month, it was literally breaking every 10 seconds. When you manage to survive and slashed it all to perfection, or actually, thank God, this doesn't have to be perfect, before, stay calm and throw it all into the washing machine. After. Always still a little surprised how it actually comes out. The diagonal edges are still open. You can fold it and sew over it. But I'm just gonna zigzag along all those edges to at least finish it somewhat. Now I have slashed a little bit close to the edge. You might want to avoid that, making my intended seam allowance actually very small. But we zigzagged well, so it should not be too much of a problem. I'm just gonna press the seams a little bit flat, so it's gonna be a little bit easier to sew. Let's get that thing over with. I'm glad we didn't fill the bottom part completely, because we would be pretty much unable to close the back. Because I'm gonna sew over this diagonal part, not too close to the edge, trying to avoid the thick part. Yeah, my pins fell out along the way. Not that easy pinning through 10 layers of fabric. And then when I arrive at the top, I'm gonna end in a triangle shape, because this corner of the back is actually gonna come under a lot of stress. Now this time the handle was actually a lot to handle. My initial plan was to sew in a loop at the corner where I can attach these metal rings that I ripped from another bag and then get a strap through, thinking these sort of standard bag elements will make my bag a bit more credible. But now that I have it in front of me, I kind of feel like it might have the opposite effect. This bag that we did also has a bit of a weird handle, but it fits the vibe, you see what I mean? The bag is so abstract that I feel like we need a bit more of an editorial vibe. Found a scrap of silk, which I could imagine being a vibe, but not this particular washed out version. Why not this weird round clothing hanger? Say what? Not a clothing hanger. It's a handle. So I pinned the two sides together. I'm gonna close it in one go. Lastly, I sew over folded elastic to make two loops to hold the handle that I'm gonna sew in on both diagonal sides. Quite low. We gotta go all the way now, guys. But don't forget, you still have to be able to put something in the bag. Partly talking to myself.
Well guys, I think we created a very unique silhouette for a bag. Haven't seen this one that often before. Let me know what you think. Should I change the handle? Is it too much? Thank you to my Patreons. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking the video if you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more. Oh yeah, I put some put some tie wraps. I think I need to put some boning here, but I have to probably fixate it in a way, otherwise I gotta wipe that well.
And the other option is to wear it like this statement clutch. If you're scared of pickpockets, you should probably wear it like this.
Fashion silhouette, but if you want to tone it down, I can put even a handle in here maybe, or just attach a handle on here with a knot. Okay, when the crabs, when the scraps. Well guys, since we're gonna reuse scraps, I didn't say it was gonna be pretty, okay?